Darksiders is pretty much a franchise that is up there with the games that I adore, right next to the prototype games. Not only is the hacking slash combat mechanics fun to control, the story is legendary and the art looks fucking sick. Just everything that makes up for being a post-apocalyptic dark fantasy based on the four horsemen of the apocalypse from the Book of Revelations or some shit like that though, that I know jack shit about though. The first two games in the series were pretty good. I completed the first one quite a while ago and I really adored the God of War and Devil May Cry like combat and the Metroidvania, the open world aesthetic in particular, with some good old puzzle solving. Darksiders to me always made me have this Soul Reaver and Castlevania kind of feel to it while I was playing it. Well, I mean, I'm guessing that's where the inspiration came from when it came to Death's design, looking very identical to Raziel's. Darksiders 2 is also an enjoyable and tangible experience and kind of feels like a different game in general, since that was more of a open world RPG where you can just interact with NPCs, kind of like in the Fallout and Elder Scrolls games. On the other hand, the games weren't by all means a masterpiece. I mean, there were a few things that I could just be a nitpicky cunt about, which would be the Zelda-like cartoonish design on some of the characters, which to me just feels just awkwardly out of place in a serious dark fantasy game. Especially when he first encountered the giant dwarf-like warriors. I think the guy's name is Ulfane, I think his name is though. I think he appears in the second and the third one as well. And some of the enemies have felt a bit like punching bags and equivalent to bullet sponges, to the point that even with the weakest enemies, using the giant greatsword, it takes 10 hits to kill them. And some of it just kind of felt kind of repetitive to the core at times with the combat. Well, maybe that's just intentional for the design, or maybe I'm missing the point. I don't fucking know. You guys can correct me in the comments because I can't be bothered to look up this shit. Well, hey, I mean, I'm guessing I'm biased when it comes to the nostalgia of the Elixir Kane titles since I've grown up in them, despite their age and dated gameplay mechanics. However, I still stand on my views when it comes to the first Darksiders being a bit better. I guess that's just me when it comes to the hacking and slashing underwater, and the way how it functioned with the good old gory executions. But hey, you got to at least be original and differentiate yourself from God of War somehow. Well, the God of War games around the first game's release. Not the 2018 reboot that just looks like a generic average walking simulator that lacks the button mashing from its earlier games. Yeah, it's fun not being able to jump and instead have to deal with unresponsive autistic controls now, isn't it? Maybe I'll buy it and give it a go whilst the price drops. I don't know, I mean, I might be proven wrong. Unlike the God of War reboot and other AAA titles that try to capture the success of walking simulators out there by being the next Until Dawn or Last of Us, Darksiders 3 was announced back in May 2017, and I'll admit, I was pretty fucking hyped for the game's release, despite me not finishing Darksiders 2. And due to the fact that everything looked very different, with a much more fun and engaging old school comeback to the days when games were all about fun, instead of having long and drawn out interactive cutscenes. Unlike what these, quote-unquote indie games tend to claim, that they're old school, by repeating the same generic overdone formula of making the next Undertale or hentai interactive visual novels that Spokes keep asking for on Steam, since they can't seem to think outside the box most of the time when it comes to other video game genres such as light gun railed shooters like House of the Dead, which I highly doubt any developer would make a VR game out of that, and the Creature series. Yeah, I mean, do you remember that shit from like the fucking 90s though? And just something that looks passable and not another shitty looking Unity made game that got shit out by one person who has spent a £10 budget for stock assets just to make his games hit and get past Steam Greenlight. And on November the 27th, Darksiders 3 has finally hit store shelves. This time being developed by Gunfire Games, former members of Vigil Games, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, which has been defunct ever since THQ became bankrupt 5 years ago, and published by THQ Nordic. Is the game any good? Does it capture its success of its predecessors? Let's find out, shall we? The story picks up after Darksiders 1 or 2, I think, I don't know. Look, if any of you guys in the comments can tell me the story and lore of Darksiders, then I'll give you $2 in Bitcoin. So you can go to Greg's and buy yourself a sausage roll so you can stick it in your mouth. I'll promise to get the $2 in Bitcoin somehow. Look, I got a fucking honey miner open though, see? Look, it's mining for money though, see? And you follow the lead of our main protagonist, Fury, who is ordered by the council to slaughter the 7 deadly sins as you travel world to world with your sidekick that's a female version of War's sidekick from the first one, that has no boobs. Throughout the game, you will encounter many types of enemies. Demons, skeletons, demons and skeletons again. That do bring a whole new challenge to the game whenever you're playing it on easy mode, which is story mode, or the hardest difficulty, which is apocalyptic. I played it on challenging mode because fuck you, that's why. At first, when reviewers were calling this game another Dark Souls, I literally thought they were over exaggerating, but they weren't. As in Darksiders 3, you will be dying a lot. Okay, let me stop you right there. It's not exactly like the majority of Dark Souls like clones in existence. Except it's a lot more, should I say, chilled than Dark Souls? What I mean is that when it comes to the standard of Souls-like games, you would always lose souls every time you die. And you would always have one chance to regain your souls / echoes, etc. Until you die during that part, your souls are gone. However, in Darksiders 3, the way how they did this procedure is a lot more, should I say, forgiving in a way. Normally when you die multiple times throughout the game, whenever it be, well, anywhere in the fucking game, there will be a magic blue cloud floating around the air that would contain all of your souls and health pickups, etc. So don't shit yourself too much about trying to gain back your 1 million souls that you've collected after you died. Because every time you die or either come back to that exact same spot later on in the game, like 5 levels later or some shit, the cloud would always be there. Or in some cases, sometimes it will merge 2 clouds into one, depending if you've got killed in that exact same location with, let's say, 1,000 souls, quite near to the 1 million souls that you've gained. Combining them both into one. Or wait, isn't that too forgiving? Fuck, whatever. The gameplay and combat feels very old school in the late 90s to 2000s kind of way, where the gameplay doesn't fuck around and gets to the point instead of just sitting through a long, drawn out, unskippable cutscenes. I mean, I get the feeling that this is some sort of blend of something such as Blade of Darkness, Die by the Sword, Soul Reaver and God of War, and of course the Soulsborne games, which they have done pretty well to an extent. It's good to see a game like this stick to its guns throughout the development. It just goes to show that the people at Gunfire Games actually give a shit about making awesome games, which they do state at the end of the credits. And to be fair, I haven't seen much hack and slash games nowadays do the whole old school technique of keeping the enemies in place as you would normally bump into them whilst exploring, instead of doing the whole tedious cliche where developers think that in order to make a hack and slash game, they have to force this repetitive gameplay mechanic where you would be locked in one area until you kill waves and waves of enemies like it's Devil May Cry or equivalent to FPSs such as Painkiller or Serious Sam. Not like these are bad games or anything. In fact, I actually adore these games, to be quite honest. At least it's a lot more fun than the other games' combat mechanics nowadays.
Skillfully it appears. Am I still beautiful?
Fury, Fury, Fury. What a character she is, eh? I would have to admit, out of the 2 previous horsemen, War and Death, she has to be the weakest out of all of them. And that goes for her lore in this game as well too, as you can tell that everything was rushed to meet the deadline. If fighting's too much for her, then I guess she can hit me with that web when I call her a whore, whilst I stick my chode into her pussy. Or she could at least make herself useful by going to the kitchen and making sausage rolls. That would save men from doing a woman's job, like washing dishes. Also, the ironic thing is that the only thing you can say is sort of being sexualized is that she's wearing heels. And before anyone in the comments corrects me on this, I know they're designed to ride horses, but I don't know, like, can you fucking run those though? Seriously? Like, or maybe I'm looking too deep into this. Cleavage, I mean, over-analysis.
Oh yeah, Fury, dominate me with your high heel boots, stomping on my dick. Oh, I wish you would put a foot on me and make me come. Eee, eee, eee. Although that will make me nut after all the pain on my dick as I come. Red apple juice. Still. Oh, eee, eee.
The shoe! The shoe! Take off your shoe! Woo!
Speaking of horses, another ironic thing about the game seems to be that you don't get to ride your horse named Rampage, despite the fact that he is killed early in the game by a sword. Not to be confused with the 2009 Uwe Boll movie with the same name. I don't know about you, but the trailer for the game right here just makes it look like a mix of Mad Max and Red Dead Redemption 2. And also screams false advertisement since you'll never get to ride your fucking horse in the game, even through a desert. Oh, and way to advertise with some below average cover of a good classic Horse with No Name by the band America.
The first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air...
I'm surprised how out of some AAA games out there is none of this strong independent woman social justice shit, or either sexualizing the absolute fuck out of Fury to the point of becoming a generic moe chick right out of a hentai anime with oversized tits, weird sexual noises. Bosses can sometimes range from fun to challenging or to just boring. One of the best examples could be the first boss you encounter, which is some sort of demonic bird-like creature named Envy, which has to be the most tedious and repetitive of them all though. And this heaven swordsman always happens to pose plunge sword attack on you. A goblin-like creature that for some reason looks like Insomniac from Small Soldiers that is hard to hit 50% of the time, whilst you repeat the same lines over and over again. Last who I can say that is the best boss with the best design, since he reminds me of Griffith from Berserk. An underwater squid-like creature who has a very HP Lovecraftian Kraken look to it, and it actually reminds me a lot of the Elder God from Soul Reaver and Legacy of Cain Defiance. That has splits of two where when it would first be attacking his body out of the weird tentacle thing and the underwater part, which is kind of clunky to control whilst you have to lead his exploding balls right into his mouth whilst he tries to suck you in. But at least it's something new that keeps it from being a repetitive hack and slash. Oh, and also, did I forget to mention that this game has members of 4?
Oh dude, that's so hot, I'm gonna nut. Oh!
But besides the overall boss repertoire, they're really fun and also put a good challenge as you would learn and master the attack patterns in order to beat the game. Pretty much the same with some of the enemies in the game, besides from just fighting the fast demons and big muscly buff ones that can take you out on 3 hits. I mean, it's good to know when you're fighting one-on-one, but when it comes to combat with multiple enemies that match your skill level, it's going to feel unfair to the point of literally dying, all because the dodging is a bit fucked in this game. Funnily enough, you can only gain 5 upgradable weapons in this game that you can upgrade to the maximum of 10. These weapons range from the whip that you start with and will be used most of the time by default. Lava swords that can make you immune to damage when it comes to walking through lava and do power fire jumps to get up high ledges. Lightning spear, which you can fly up tornadoes with. Earth hammer, which enables you to break these purple rocks whilst doing the power attack with the hammer. Walk underwater and morph into a magnetic ball that sticks to a crystal magnetic surface to roll around on. The frozen blade, which you can use to freeze certain objects such as conveyor belts, gears, cranks, everything that fucking moves. Well, sort of though. Well, I mean, it's limited of course. Oh, and a spinning blade, which makes a comeback too, except this time you can only use it with your powers to break shit. Except the fact that its damage output has been reduced to the point that it's not even as deadly as the one in Darksiders 1, and please stop fucking texting me, you piece of shit. And yes, I know that these weapons have names, but I can't be bothered to look them up because effort. The one I've been using most out of my playthrough was a lightning spear, which you can hover and cast mini tornadoes out of that do quite a minimal of damage depending on your weapon forge level. The other thing that really stood out to me is the amount of backtracking in this Metroidvania world, as you first discover the certain areas, shortcuts, and the secrets that would remain inaccessible until you gain the abilities to get to these places, which reminded me a lot of Soul Reaver 1's open world level design. I'm not sure if you call Soul Reaver 1's level design open world though, but I don't fucking know. But this time with sort of a linear and non-linear design. And may I bring up how beautiful everything looks? From a trip from the apocalyptic world to hell and back, that really do stand out with a very dark fantasy, Dark Souls and Nioh look to everything, except this time it's not Japanese. Well, beside from the graphics, which could use some improvement to be honest, the level design that I really liked was how beautiful the underwater sections looked, with a mix of blue and other vibrant colours that looks like you're in a spectral realm. Okay, this is the last time I'm going to make a comparison to the Legacy Kane games, I swear. However, the game ain't all squeaky clean 100% true masterpiece. Just like everything in existence, it has flaws. And yes, that goes to shows that games like Last of Us and movies such as the Shawshank Redemptions aren't 10 out of 10 perfect masterpieces. You fucking nerds. Dodging can be very finicky. It's like trying to stop a retard from getting hit by a car that's speeding 100 miles per hour. Or trying to teach an autistic kid potty training before he starts shitting all over your bed or all over your kitchen floor. Sometimes what counts as a perfect dodge and a typical dodge can be very 50-50. As it sometimes just doesn't seem to work since you don't seem to have the invulnerability when you're dodging. And when you do your perfect dodge, you can also follow that shit up with an ASIN based counter attack right on your opponent, which is pretty fucking sick. But at the same time, it's equivalent to trying to get that cheap, crappy old TV working with its bad signal by moving the antenna.
What did you do that for?
I guess I got carried away.
Also, you can go into Havoc mode, which in all honesty looks badass, but at the same time it doesn't really inflict that much damage onto your opponent as others previously did, and it seems to run out really quickly. On release, there were tons of bugs and glitches everywhere, going from 60 frames per second to like a massive drop in some big and small areas. Level, geometry, buildings, terrain, etc. don't load correctly at times, making some areas inaccessible and broken. It fucking crashes the desktop at times with either an error or a crash report that the Unreal Engine 4 shit is pants. Thankfully, the developers have fixed this in the latest patches, and also making the story mode difficulty more fair for grandpas. Luckily, the developers have made the thread where you can report about the bugs and glitches on Reddit, out of all the places you could have chosen. So maybe they might make a new game plus like they did with the newest Prey game that I haven't bothered to play yet, I don't know. Also, what really bugs the shit out of me in these modern games is like there's no interactive moments where you get to ride a horse, mount griffins that fire magic bolts of lightning, or even use any fucking guns, which pales in comparison to the first two games, and just creates this tedious experience of doing the same old shit. Lock onto the enemy, dodge, attack twice, dodge again, back away, attack once or twice, again. You see what I'm trying to get here? Okay, look, I could see this being a fun, challenging experience on the first playthrough, or when you fire up the game to start playing where you left off, but when you're literally doing this for like, you know, God knows how long, few hours, it just becomes fucking boring and tiresome to the point when I just want to switch it off right after I defeat a boss sometimes. Well, I mean, it's not in a vein of being repetitive as Uri-chan Bara said to Chaos, but still. Also, Darksiders 3 seems to have removed the finishes and executions from the first two games, which is pretty fucking disappointing since they feel very satisfying to use upon enemies with only 25% of health left. Yeah, I know, it sucks. and the only time it's used is during the cinematics. Final thoughts, this game seems to be pretty decent as a sequel to its predecessors by keeping good old war-like gameplay to its roots with fun and addicting hack and slashing. Although, if you're expecting the same exact game, just like the previous two or another Dark Souls clone, then prepare to be disappointed, but not in a bad way. Although, I would still recommend it to everyone nonetheless. Despite my complaints with the game, I actually had a load of fun beating it like a newborn baby, despite the fact that the developers didn't have much time and add more shit to the game due to time constraints. So my final verdict, 7 out of 10. You know, amazing quality game that feels like a blast from the past, although it could have been done a fuckload better. Like, you know, technical shit that I've been mostly bitching about throughout this review though, and the rest of the game itself. Thanks for watching, kikes. Subscribe for more videos like this, blah 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 blah. You know what to do, you autistic Down syndrome. Wankstain? Bye.